Hi, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you this evening with a book review. Wanted to review this book that I bought this last weekend. I've been working on it the last 3 afternoons. It's Lou, 50 Years of Kicking Dirt, Playing Hard, and Winning Big in the Sweet Spot of Baseball. It's an autobiography by Lou Piniella, and Bill Madden helped to write the book. This is a 2017 book. It is a HarperCollins Publishers. I thought it was a real good book. It's 332 pages long. Had show you a little bit about the book. So I showed you, here's your front cover, side, and there's your back cover. Pretty famous, pretty famous incident with Piniella. This happened on several occasions. Him throwing a little bit of a temper tantrum on the field. And you can see him picking up the base and throwing it there. Anyway, 332 pages. The book's got lots of pretty good pictures in the middle of the book. Goes through his playing career, getting married, and then gets into his years, eventually his years as a manager. And that's pretty much what the whole book was all based around. He started off with his life as a youngster playing in Little League and stuff around the Tampa area. I thought he did a really good job telling the story of his youth, and then on into when he started his major league career. He bounced around the minor leagues a little bit before he really made it with the Kansas City Royals. He was a Rookie of the Year with the Kansas City Royals, had a really good season and played with them. Was it 1969 to 73? I think that was the years he was there, and then eventually signs on with the Yankees, and he plays pretty much the rest of his career till 1984 with the New York Yankees. And in the book, he does a really good job of talking about his relationship with several of the big name players with the Yankees, Thurman Munson and Goose Gossage, and just several of the Yankees, and goes through his off and on again relationship with George Steinbrenner. And I really like the book because it seems like he's not pulling any punches. He's pretty true to what happened with all of the stuff with him and George Steinbrenner, and then Lou's pretty upfront in the book about his temper. He knows he's got a terrible temper, and he got thrown out of several ball games and stuff. And I just thought it was a pretty well written book. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not a literary classic by any means, but I have a collection of baseball biographies, and for me, if I compare this to the other baseball biographies, I probably give it a 4 out of 5. Now, I would not give it that same 4 comparing it to like a historian's biography. I'm comparing this to other sports biographies or autobiographies. Anyway, I thought it was very well written, very fast paced. Again, I finished it in basically 3 afternoons, and he does a good job talking about his career and then how it evolves into him becoming a manager. And then, of course, he's a very, very successful manager. And when I was growing up, I remember watching Lou Piniella with the Seattle Mariners. That's where I remember him. I don't even remember him with the Yankees. When I try to think back on my youth and just trying to remember baseball when I first started watching, I don't remember him with the Yankees, but I do remember him with the Mariners. And he spent quite a bit of time with the Mariners. He was also with the Cincinnati Reds in the early 90s, which I would have been watching baseball, and I didn't remember that. And so anyway, that was kind of fun reading about that, because I do remember watching the World Series games that he was coaching. And I remember all the stuff he's talking about in these World Series games. And then when he moved on with the Mariners, all the stuff he's talking about, I remember watching a lot of that stuff. So he seemed pretty true to form, and it was fun reading about his relationships with like Ken Griffey Jr. and some of the other big name players, Barry Larkin, just some of those big name players that he was around. It gets into when he went and coached at Tampa Bay. He coached with the Cubs right at the end of his career. So I thought that it was thoroughly entertaining. I really enjoyed his stories and just his perspective on life in baseball. And he did a real good job at the very end. He started talking about modern day baseball and what we face in baseball today versus when he was originally playing in the 1970s. So he talked about the steroid era. He talked about it was interesting listening to him or reading about how he felt about the 100 pitch count on pitchers, and he just had an interesting perspective. He doesn't always agree with some of the modern day stuff, and I just enjoyed listening to that. I thought it was, or reading about that, I thought it was very interesting. The only thing that I really didn't like about the book, the one thing that was a drawback was it was obvious they did some interviews for the book, and they interviewed some of the big name players, some of the other managers, some of the front office guys, and sometimes during the storyline, it would be Lou Piniella talking, and then it would switch to one of the interviews, but you didn't realize there was a switch, and you'd be reading for Lou, and then you'd be reading from another perspective, and you would, for me anyway, I didn't quite catch it that they switched perspectives, and I was just like, what the heck just happened? What, it just doesn't make sense. And then I'd have to go back, and once I went back and reread it, it made sense. But that happened several times, so I thought that maybe as they were carrying on the conversation back and forth from Lou to the interviews, sometimes that it did not flow very well. Sometimes. And I don't know if that was the book or if that was me. Maybe I was reading a little too fast and I just didn't catch it. I don't know. Usually I catch stuff like that. But that's okay. It didn't really take away from the book too much. Like I said, I'd probably give this book a 4 if I'm out of 5 if I'm comparing it to other sports biographies and autobiographies. So I would recommend reading this. So if you like baseball biographies, and if you're a Yankees fan or just a baseball fan in general, I think you would probably like Lou by Lou Piniella. So anyway, this has been Ruttenberg's Reviews, and I am Bill Ruttenberg, and I hope this review helps you in deciding whether to read this book or not. So good night, BookTube. Happy reading.